Afternoon, everybody. President Biden had a chance to speak this morning with Prime Minister Netanyahu. The President and the Prime Minister discussed ongoing efforts to secure the release of all remaining hostages that are being held by Hamas. The two leaders also reviewed the situation in Gaza and the shift to targeted operations that will enable the flow of increasing amounts of humanitarian assistance while keeping the military pressure on Hamas and its leaders significant. The President welcomed the decision from the government of Israel to permit the shipment of flour for the Palestinian people directly through Ashdod port, while our teams are separately working on options for more direct maritime delivery of assistance into Gaza. The President also discussed recent progress in ensuring the Palestinian Authority's revenues are available to pay salaries, including for the Palestinian security forces in the West Bank. The President also discussed Israel's responsibility, even as it maintains military pressure on Hamas and its leaders, to reduce civilian harm and to protect the innocents. The President also discussed his vision for a more durable peace and security for Israel, fully integrated within the region, and a two-state solution with Israel's security guaranteed. Now, and we'll have a formal readout of the call here shortly if it's not out already. Just one last thing. This morning, U.S. forces conducted 3 successful self-defense strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. This is the 4th preemptive action that the U.S. military has taken in the past week against Houthi missile launchers that were ready to launch attacks. In this case, anti-ship missiles. CENTCOM, Central Command, will have more details on this a little bit later, but as you know, there are U.S. Navy ships in the Red Sea as well as international shipping. These actions were, I want to stress again, done in self-defense, but it also helps make safer international waters for both naval vessels as well as merchant shipping. Thank you.
John, so the call with Bibi and the President today was the first since Christmas.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about why the delay, especially because they were talking so frequently over the fall? And then also on Bibi, does the President think a two-state solution is possible with Bibi in the office, given what he's said about it?
On the modalities of the call and the frequencies, as I've said before, they will talk as appropriate. This was deemed by both leaders as the best opportunity for yet another call, Colleen, and I have no doubt that there'll be additional calls going forward, clearly. The President still believes in the promise and the possibility of a two-state solution. Now, he recognizes that's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of leadership there in the region, particularly, on both sides of the issue. And the United States stands firmly committed to eventually seeing that outcome right now. And we're talking to them actively about post-conflict Gaza and what governance there needs to look like and the importance of an independent Palestinian state for long-term security, not just for the Palestinian people, but for the Israeli people as well. Currently, of course, we're rightly focused, as I said in the opening statement, on making sure Israel has what it continues to have what it needs to defend itself.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, John. So you continue to reiterate the administration's policy that you support a two-state solution. Senator Elizabeth Warren says that if Netanyahu opposes that, then we need to question why we are supporting the Netanyahu government. So why is the U.S. supporting a government that opposes U.S. policy?
I'm not sure what the context means of supporting the government, but let's just take it. I'm going to assume it's meant in the context of this war they're fighting. It is certainly supporting we're certainly supporting the Israeli governments to defend themselves, but it's really bigger than that. It's about supporting the Israeli people's right to exist, right to be a nation. I mean, again, you don't have to look any further than the 2017 manifesto of Hamas to see what their ultimate plans are. They want to wipe the country off the face of the map. So we're defending Israel's right to defend itself. The Israeli people get to decide who represents them, who their elected officials are. We don't decide that. And we will always work with whoever the Israeli people decide to put into power and government. We'll always work with them, regardless of the differences, maybe on political issues. They chose this government. This is the government that is in charge of conducting warfare against Hamas, we're going to make sure that they have what they need, in addition to making sure, as I said in the opening statement, that we're doing everything we can to alleviate the humanitarian suffering in Gaza.
Warren's not alone in expressing these concerns. Is the president worried that, given what Netanyahu has said about opposing a Palestinian state, it could complicate the efforts to pass the supplemental?
The president's under two things, and under no illusions of how elusive a two-state solution has been, and how much hard work there's going to be ahead for all of us to try to get there. On the supplemental, again, I don't want to negotiate here in public. We believe that we're making progress here in terms of working in a bipartisan way with senators, and we'll see where this goes. But the president comes away from the meeting with congressional leaders the other day. Largely, that was meeting about Ukraine and bipartisan support on Ukraine, but that they understand the urgency of supporting Israel as well.
Thank